Week 1 so far has been crazy. We had half the quarterbacks not even hit 200 yards passing. The ball was spread out all over the place in every single game. It was very unpredictable in a lot of moments here. But I believe we need to go over the box scores, go over game by game, and just talk about what I saw from Red Zone today. Of course, Red Zone only gives you this much context. So if you watched any of these games fully, all the plays, let me know what you saw. Let me know what stood out to you. I want to hear about that in the comments below. It's just going to help me and everybody else out going forward. And before we dig in, you need to click that subscribe button right now because we're going hot and heavy on the waiver wire starting tomorrow. And then each day we go deeper. So tomorrow will be a little bit lighter because we only got a little bit of the advanced analytics. Next day a little bit more. The next day a little bit more. And then we keep deep diving the waiver wire, peeling back that onion. And of course later in the week, we help you set your lineups with these videos. Click that button. Stop missing out. First game we're looking at here, Cowboys and the Cleveland Browns. And the story was Deshaun Watson here. And it was a sad story. It was awful. If you looked at the first half numbers, he barely had any passes completed. They were all around the line of scrimmage. Wasn't able to push it deep. It killed the Browns. And then the Cowboys, just due to Watson not being functional, they were able to do whatever they wanted. They won 33-17. They were up early. Zeke got the touches early. He was in that first drive from what I saw. And like I said, Zeke's going to be back there in pass protection, especially with Myles Garrett back there. He had the fastest pass rush of all pass rushers this weekend, unless something changes in this Sunday night game that's going on right now or on the Monday night game. But they're going to have him back there for pass protection. Rico Dowdle is going to be used a lot between the tackles, but it's really going to be inconsistent. You had Ferguson go down with an injury. That's going to be very impactful for fantasy because you're going to be looking for the next guy up. A lot of people are going to be looking at Isaiah Likely, and that's understandable. But again, this matchup, I was expecting it to be low scoring. I was expecting it to be weird. Well, I was expecting it to be like both teams struggling on offense. I wasn't expecting Deshaun Watson to suck this bad, but he sucked even worse than what I thought he was going to be because I wasn't expecting him to be all world or anything. But man, that was probably one of the worst performances of the Sunday. It impacted everybody. Like all the wide receivers here for the Browns, they didn't really do anything. You're looking at CeeDee Lamb, 10 targets. You expect that. 5 catches, 61 yards. Didn't really need to be pushed really much more to that because they already had the lead. Brandon Cooks scored that touchdown. That was huge for him. And then Ferguson's out. Jalen Tolbert, we've been watching him. 2 targets. Again, his viability is when Cooks gets hurt or if he gets hurt. That's what we're looking at with him. Elijah Moore was that wide receiver that was looking as a sneaky start from this game. If you remember the sneaky start video, and those 6 targets was there. 3 balls, 9 yards. That's all that equated to. Watson just really sucked that up. But 6 targets was there. I told you he was going to get some targets and some work. It just didn't amount to anything. Now we're looking at the Steelers and the Falcons. This game was so low scoring early on that you barely noticed it was being played on the red zone. Justin Fields, he wasn't all world, but he wasn't too shabby back there. George Pickens, like I said in the live streams, like I guarantee you he gets at least 5 targets. And I guarantee you they're going to be deep. I guarantee he's going to come out with a good average depth of target. You can check that out on NFL Next Gen Stats. But average catch, 14.2, 6 catches, 85 yards. One of the most productive receivers yardage-wise. 7 targets, solid. Pat Freiermuth, 4 targets. Rest of the wide receivers or pass catchers, you want to say, not getting much targets. It's the George Pickens show when Justin Fields is under center. And that's what we saw during training camp. That's what's going to happen. Now you're looking over at the Falcons. Bijan soaked up 5 targets. Ray McLeod got 7. London 3. Darnell 3. Just ugly. It just did not look good. That was something you'd expect from Justin Fields. Kirk Cousins got back there against the Steelers. It was kind of ugly. And then Bijan Robinson averaged 3.8 yards per attempt. On the red zone, you didn't see this game much. You didn't see this game much. When you did, it was mostly the Steelers driving. Because guess what? The Falcons only put up a 10 spot. You were expecting more output from this team. Najee Harris was able to churn out 70 yards, which was solid. But Justin Fields, getting it done with 57 yards on the ground. So there's 5.7 fantasy points right there. Whatever that scores in your league with the 156 right there. No passing touchdowns, no rushing touchdowns, but still, you know, you got your rushing floor. I told you this was going to be a fun game to watch. 34-28, the Bills won this one, and it was very impactful. There was a lot of movement. One thing I want to point out is Keon Coleman. He caught that big ball around the boundary that was able to boost his yardage total, but he's going to get those deep balls downfield. Greg Dortch soaked up targets. He had 8 targets, getting it dinked and dunked to him. Marvin Harrison Jr., where are you, sir? Where are you? James Conner, 3 catches, 33 yards, and also getting it done on the ground with 50 yards on 16 carries. Just 3.1 yards per attempt. Trey Benson, early on, was getting touches. He was getting opportunities. James Cook, 19 carries. And the one thing you want to point out here is that last year the Cardinals were a run funnel defense. So you saw that evident in their game plan as they were moving the rock. Josh Allen had a rushing touchdown. Yeah, he had 2 of them. I remember watching that on the show. And then Josh Allen, 232 yards, which was like one of the highest passers on Sunday when yardage total. There weren't not many quarterbacks exceeding 200 yards on Sunday, which was crazy. Mac Hollins is a guy to pay attention to going forward, getting deep targets, got that touchdown. Khalil Shakir, you're always going to pay attention to him. But this passing offense is going to be volatile. Keon Coleman's going to grow into this role, and he's already getting targeted, getting opportunities. He got 5 targets in this game. I know a lot of people were questioning how many targets he's going to get starting off. We already know. We're already getting a decent target share. We got 5 in our first game. Greg Dortch is getting volume. And then also, Michael Wilson. Just 2 targets, but he got that touchdown. So he was able to be viable to some degree for fantasy football. Again, Ray Davis here. 3 carries, 13 yards. Was not the 1B back we're hoping, but it was just game 1. So let that build up some more, especially as they start looking at the carries for James Cook, and they're going to want to scale that back. If he keeps getting that many carries in a game or that much work in games. The Bears came back and won this game. DeAndre Swift caught like a swing pass for a touchdown late to put the Bears over top, but it was an ugly game. Caleb Williams looked like a rookie, only 93 passing yards. Will Levis looked like a second-year quarterback, 1 TD, 1 interception. Ugly game. Tony Pollard is a bright spot here. He's got pop in the step. He can be productive in any given week, especially with how weird this game script was. You're looking at Calvin Ridley here. He got 7 targets. He's going to get volume. Tyler Boyd got more volume than expected, but the game script kind of got out of line there. Keenan Allen, 11 targets. It's like he never left the Chargers. Getting double-digit targets, and then DJ Moore getting 8 targets. Rome Odunze, watch for him later in the season. Just watch for him. Feels like he's simmering a little bit. Really, there's not much to know. Treylon Burks leaking out 2 targets in this matchup. He's still kicking around, still getting some opportunity. This was another ugly game, and Joe Burrow could not push the rock. Of course, Brissett was moving the chain some enough to keep the Bengals at bay, but this was an ugly one. Ramondre Stevenson was the safe play, and it lived up to that. 120 yards, 1 touchdown. You look at the receivers for the Patriots, ain't nothing happening. Jamar Chase, 6 catches for 62 yards. So you got your 12 fantasy points. It was enough for you to fight another day. Yoshi came in, 3 catches, 26 yards. Again, like what I was saying, if you were looking at Yoshi, you just did not draft wide receivers good enough. I told you to go heavy at wide receiver early in your draft. So when you got to the double-digit rounds, you weren't interested in them anymore, and you were just chasing upside plays. And I was in some leagues where I had to deal with some injuries. I think even like a T. Higgins or something like that popped up on one of my teams, and it didn't even matter. I just pulled someone up from bench and just put them in the spot. I don't think those players really hit or amount to much, but still, I did not have to make that move because I was stacked on my bench at wide receiver, and then I was still doing well at running back because I hit on some upside plays like J.K. Dobbins, who I bet we talk about soon. Zach Moss got 2 catches. Also looking at here, Zach Moss 9 carries, Chase Brown 3. Zach Moss got the touchdown. Zach Moss is very dependable. He's going to get that work between the tackles. He's going to get some opportunity. And so far, it looks like it's going to be about a 60-40 split, Moss to Brown. This one was a wild one. Texans, Colts, and a lot of questions about Collins, Dell, and Diggs. And I'm going to say this again. I think this is going to be a carousel. One's going to hit, one's going to be okay, and one's not going to hit. And today, it was Collins and Diggs, and Dell got you 7. You see Diggs right there getting 2 touchdowns, and Nico Collins getting the deep balls. That's just what's going to happen. It's just going to be a carousel. We saw that with the Packers last year with their group of wide receivers. Texans, better quarterback play, better wide receivers. Probably going to be better on the upside. Just what you're going to expect. Nico Collins is going to get those deep balls. Expect him to be splashy more often than not. Stephon Diggs getting workload. 6 targets in this matchup. We got a lot of upside with him in this offense. You're looking over at the Colts side. Alec Pierce had that touchdown, that deep ball, but A.D. Mitchell was a few inches away from scoring big time in fantasy because he had a deep target going his way. He had like an 8 out of like 17 in this matchup. Michael Pittman, 8 targets, but just 4 catches for 31 yards. So Lady Luck just wasn't on his side. You look at the rushing here. Anthony Richardson, 56 yards and a touchdown. 48 rushing yards for Jonathan Taylor and a touchdown. You expect them to move the chains on the ground a lot for the Colts. Joe Mixon, 30 carries. He is the workhorse. 159 yards, 1 touchdown. They paid this guy to be on this team, and they paid to use him, and that's what they're going to do. He got a lot of workload. He also caught 3 balls for 19 yards. 3 targets on top of that. So that being said, Joe Mixon, workhorse. The Texans can move the football, and the Colts got a little bit of firepower to them. Only 19 pass attempts for Anthony Richardson, but they can move it on the ground. They got a lot of ways they can win. They can win on the deep ball. They can spread it around a little bit. The Colts, like I said, they're going to be a fascinating offense to watch throughout the season. This was a hot matchup. It hit the under because they were expecting 46 points on DraftKings as the line dipped from like 47, 48 earlier in the week. Trevor Lawrence, 162 yards, 1 touchdown. 2 of those hit a 300 spot. Again, not many quarterbacks hit 200 yards in this week. It was weird. Tank Bigsby, 12 carries, 73 yards. He got more workload than expected in this matchup. Travis Etienne, 12 carries, 44 yards. Gabe Davis getting opportunity. Brian Thomas Jr. starting off hot as a rookie in his first game. 4 targets, 4 catches, 47 yards, and a touchdown. Christian Kirk, 4 targets, 1 catch for 30. I think that might be one of my biggest misses because I used him as a safe play against some upside plays. But usually, for me personally, I would take the upside. But I told people, like, hey, if you want Kirk for a safe play, he could be a safe option. He was not a safe option. He was not. So hopefully those people went for the upside play that they were looking at. Because Kirk usually, in situations with Trevor Lawrence in their offense, is soaking up about 20% of the targets, getting opportunity underneath, and just getting you a baseline floor. That did not happen today in this matchup. We were expecting more points and more firepower from this matchup. It did not happen. It hit the under. That's one of the reasons why. Tua, 338 yards, looking solid. Jeff Wilson got some opportunities. Achane got that touchdown that saved him. We also got Raheem Mostert, 9 yards. That was a big whiff. That was a big whiff. I called that on a few people. That was a big whiff on my part. And now we're looking at Tyreek Hill, Jalen Waddle. Of course, they went ham. Mostert, 2 catches, 10 yards. Achane getting it done in the receiving realm. Of course, you started him because you paid up for him. And he is the bright spot going forward in this offense. Canales is regretting signing with the Panthers. I bet so because this was horrible. 47-10 in the debut. 0-1 for the Panthers. Bryce Young, 161 yards. 2 interceptions, just was not getting it done. And like I said earlier this week, I did a unique video on Miles Sanders. And I was saying, hey, I don't think this coaching staff really cares about what they did last year. Miles Sanders had a groin injury last year that slowed him down. And he's looking good in training camp. And looks like something's going to happen here. They split the carries. And this was a weird game script. They were playing from behind, but it looks like they're going to be playing from behind a lot. I don't know if Chuba's going to be viable too often. I think this is going to be an ugly backfield until we get Jonathan Brooks back. That's one thing we can kind of note from this. And then also the wide receivers here. The thing about these wide receivers, they were doing things off and on throughout training camp. Xavier Legette was hurt a lot during training camp, but he still got 7 targets. 7 targets in his first game. Getting opportunity. Again, we were behind a lot, but 4 catches, 35 yards, up there in air yards with a 16 average depth of target. Jonathan Mingo getting some work. He was looking good in training camp. Adam Thielen, we expect him to get work. Deontay Johnson, 6 targets. Didn't amount to anything. 2 catches, 19 yards. Over to the Saints. And they're just blowing up. Rashid Shaheed getting those deep balls as expected. Alvin Kamara getting work in the passing game. Foster Moreau, another guy to look at. Juwan Johnson getting a touchdown. The ball's just spreading around. Chris Olave laid an egg on you guys. But you know what? That's just going to happen. Derek Carr looked good this game. Looked all right. 19 completions on 23 attempts. 3 touchdowns. Was getting the job done. Hayner came in as the QB2. Not Ritter. So something to look at there. And then Alvin Kamara getting it done on the ground as well. Saints were humming this week. The Giants sucked. They were getting killed in this matchup. But Malik Neighbors did get 7 targets. Wan'Dale Robinson got 12. And now we're checking Jalen Hyatt got 1 target. Better have been a deep ball. We'll check the air yards later on that. Darius Slayton got 4. Theo Johnson got 4. But Neighbors getting 7 targets is the story. 5 catches, 66 yards. He needs peppered. He probably even needs to get double-digit targets at this point when you're trailing like this and just force feed him. You're looking at the running backs for the Giants. Devin Singletary got 10 carries. When you're trailing like this, don't expect the run game to be very impactful for fantasy. It's just how it happens. The running backs were not really getting used in the passing game. That's something to note. Justin Jefferson got his with the touchdown. Jordan Addison had an injury or something come up from what I saw, and he's kind of in jeopardy. We're going to watch the injury reports on him. Aaron Jones, 14 carries, 94 yards, and a touchdown. He had an early touchdown in this matchup where he was able to get it around the goal line area and was able to get to the outside on the carry and really showcase a little bit of that speed. Jalen Naylor is a player to pay attention to. He is a player to pay attention to because they're mentioning that he's going to get more targets in this offense, which could potentially happen. He's not a guy to go after on waivers, but a guy to pay attention to nonetheless. The story of the Raiders, the Chargers today was J.K. Dobbins. He's back from the death. 10 carries, 135 yards, 1 touchdown. Had a run that broke 20 miles per hour. Also, Ladd McConkey saw 7 targets. That's going to perk you up. Quentin Johnston had 5 targets in this game. You better pay attention to him if you're playing DFS. I would not go after him in redraft. There's just not enough volume in this offense to really go after. There's 17 receptions total among these wide receivers. 26 pass attempts for Herbert. They were up in this game, though. But on top of this, Amir White got 13 carries, 44 yards. Alexander Madison got a touchdown, too, in the receiving realm, catching 4 balls for 43 yards on a touchdown. Brock Bowers, 8 targets in this game. Something to note, something to chase. If you want to make a trade for a tight end, that might be the tight end to go after. 6 catches for 58 yards. If it's not PPR, you still want to go after him, which might make him even cheaper to go after. But 8 targets in his first game. Moved around, using the slot. Looked quick, looks good after coming back from that injury. Devontae Adams, 6 targets. Again, this was a weird matchup, and it looks like they're probably going to go back and forth with these quarterbacks from what we're seeing here. 257 yards from Minshew, 144 by Herbert, but looks like he did not need to push the pace too much. The story of this game, Broncos and Seahawks, with Bo Nix and how he was going to do on the road against Seattle, and it was down and some ups, but 26 completions on 42 pass attempts. The fact that they allowed him to get 42 pass attempts in this game is saying, hey, we're taking the training wheels off. We're pulling off the condom, and we're going to see what happens here. Bo Nix, 5 carries, 35 yards, and a touchdown. He had a run of over 20 miles per hour. That 38-yard run, over 20 miles per hour. Something to note here. The carries were split up among Denver. Estime had a run where he was like a bat out of hell up the gut, and the ball coughed up. Josh Reynolds, 8 targets. Cortland Sutton, 12 targets. Just 4 balls caught for 38 yards. The targets is what you want to chase. He's getting the workload. Bailey got 8 targets as well. 8 catches for 39 yards. Something to look to off the waiver wire. I know some of you guys are going to be looking at him. Looking at the Seattle Seahawks. Jackson Smith-Njigba, just 2 targets. Noah Fant, 4. I believe he got hurt in this matchup from what I saw on the ticker today. Tyler Lockett, 7 targets, 6 catches for 77 yards. Zach Charbonnet getting that work in the touchdown in the passing game. And then Kenneth Walker, the safest running back of the week, pretty much, because you knew that Seattle was going to be up on the Broncos due to Bo Nix starting. 103 yards and a touchdown in this matchup. Watched this game a lot on Red Zone. It was showcased a lot by them. Jaden Daniels, up and down, but you look at his rushing production, 88 yards and 2 touchdowns. You love that for fantasy football. Austin Eckler, 2 carries, but in the passing game, 4 catches for 52 yards, getting it done there. Like I said, with that quick RPO game, they're trying to keep Daniels upright. They're going to dish it to Eckler in the flat a few times. Brian Robinson also got some work in the passing game. That's another indicator of that. Zach Ertz, 4 targets. Luke McCaffrey, 3 targets. Terry McLaurin was not deep ball city. That was one of my misses. 2 catches for 17 yards. Bucky Irving was a rookie that we're paying attention to. He got workload early. Even though the Bucs were up early in this game, still 9 carries, 62 yards, looking solid. Him and Rachaad White, a good 1A, 1B combo. Actually, both these guys good in the passing game. Bucky Irving's good in the passing game, and still solid between the tackles. A good mix, especially with Godwin and Edmonds. And Jalen McMillan got a touchdown here. 1 catch, 32 yards, and a touchdown. Looking solid here. This is your typical Tampa Bay Buccaneers box score. Those are the games from Sunday. We still got the Sunday night game going on right now. We'll have the Monday night game tomorrow. But tomorrow, we will talk about the waiver wire. We'll go hot and heavy on the running backs, the wide receivers. And then the next day, we'll go deeper on the waiver wire, talking about the advanced analytics, talking about the air yards, the completion rates, target share, everything else with these players. And then later in the week, we will help you set your lineups. Make sure to hit that subscribe button on the way out. One thing for watching. Catch you on the next video.